Welcome to the Selling Trust Podcast with Nathan Mark. Did you know you're 10 times more likely to close a deal with an existing client than a new prospect? Today, we're diving into the Mark method to help you transform transactions into lifelong partnerships and build a referral flywheel that works for you 24/7. Hey, how's it going? It's Nathan Mark on the Selling Trust Podcast, and today we're going to talk about my book, The Mark Method. So this book, man, it has been an absolute labor of love. I've worked all these years in a sales role, in an account executive role, connecting with people, talking to people, listening more than I speak, trying to understand what people need and anticipate things before they even need it. And honestly, like it's one of those roles that is just, it's so wild because there really isn't a playbook, right? I never once had a mentor sit me down and really like go over what I needed to do in order to be successful in sales, not just sales, but really account management, right? So going in, making a friend and making sure that that friend sticks with you to the end. You know, that essentially is what it is boiled down. But I didn't know that. I had to go through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of hardships, a lot of fun wins also to get to where I am now. And really what it's resulted in is all of these experiences that have kind of helped me come up with a method to approach selling to accounts and selling to long-term clients. Because at the end of the day, I'll tell you what, hunting's fun, hunting's exciting, hunting is thrilling, but man, it is not sustainable. And that's something that I've experienced in my own career. The more you hunt, the more tired you get. Whereas farming, when you lean into what you have, when you plant seeds, you water them, you watch them grow, and you harvest, and then you do that over and over and over, it's repeatable. It might not be as flashy and as sexy as hunting, but man, it's consistent. And as I get older, as I, have my kids and I watch my kids grow up and their schedules are starting to get crazy and my schedule remains crazy, my wife's schedule is crazy. Consistency, oh man, it is the name of the game. So knowing what to do and when to do it and how to do it, that's the Mark method. The Mark method is all of these experiences that I've had in my success as a salesperson kind of boiled down into a methodology, a system that is repeatable. Because man, what I would have done to have something like this as a new, account manager, sales rep, technical sales engineer, whatever you want to call it, right? At the beginning of my career, if I would have had someone sit down and say, hey man, this is what you need to focus on first. This is what you need to understand next. This is what you need to be chasing. And once you do those things really, really well, then you need to hit it with some polish and you need to make it look better and function better. Dude, if I would have had someone take the time to do something like that for me at the beginning of my career, there's no telling like where I would be now, right? So instead, I'm going to be that someone, right? And so the Mark method is this approach. And so let's kick it off, right? So the M, it's actually M squared ARK, right? Mark, but the M is squared. And really, so what the M stands for is mastery, but there's two things that you got to be a master of, right? If you're in sales, if you're helping people, if you're in an account manager role, the first thing you have to know is your product, right? Like, come on, you're selling something. So you either have a product or you have a service. That's it, really. Like you have two things or the combination of both, but that's what you're selling and you need to know it. And I'm not saying you need to know every single nuance to every single thing that you sell. You really don't. you do need to know a couple things inside and out. You need to be able to speak from a position of authority on something. You need to have mastery over something, whether it's, one of your 10 products that you could talk about for hours, whether it is a service that you have that you're extremely excited about, that you want to work to build your business around. It doesn't matter, but you just have to really be knowledgeable about something. This puts you in a position of authority when it comes to talking about what you do and what your company has to offer. But additionally, it allows you to start adding value, right? Because when you're a master of something, then you have the ability to talk about it intelligently. You have the ability to kind of teach about it. You have the ability to generate authority because you're the top dog telling people about this thing. So you got to have a product or service mastery of some sort. Not everything you offer, but it's got to start somewhere. And then you need it, you know, as you're going through your career and as you're growing in your career, you need to keep adding products that you're mastering or concepts or services that you're mastering to increase your portfolio and continue to add value. The other M is mastering your mindset, right? Because let's be honest, sales is a bitch, okay? It's a grind, it's hard, it's difficult. You're selling. You're selling. So not only do you need to understand what you're selling, but you're selling to people, right? And people are complex emotional creatures. Oh boy, aren't they? So it takes a really, really strong mindset in order to be effective at sales. I know at the very beginning of my career, I had some initial success and then it dropped off. And there's a few reasons why this happened. But I'll tell you what, my boss at the time really, really helped kind of, bolster my mindset. He reinforced my determination to continue doing what I was doing because I was about to drop out. And so, mastering your product is one thing, but also having the grit and the stick to itiveness to keep on going even when things get hard, to not be afraid to look silly in front of clients, to not be afraid to do the right thing, to not be afraid to, deliver bad news because who likes delivering bad news, but it still has to be delivered. All of these things, it takes an incredibly strong mindset to get through. So you got to be able to master your mindset. You got to be, kind of a master of you in order to find success. And it's always something that we can work on. It's always a point of personal development, right? The A in the Mark method, authenticity. Be yourself. Figure out have you ever taken a moment to think about what is your brand? I don't know. Up until me kind of going through these steps myself, I had never really consciously thought about it. I've always been quite authentic to who I am, sometimes probably a little more than I should. Opportunity for growth. But honestly, at the end of the day, you got to show up as who you are, because if you don't, you are going to get so burned out because you're going to keep swapping on different masks over and over for each different client that you have, trying to be someone that you're not. And eventually either you're burning out or you're getting found out, right? Someone's going to that's not who he is, that's not who she is, that's not real. They hate that. Why are they what? It's just going to backfire on you. So you really got to figure out who you are, what your brand is as it applies to your work, and then lean into that. Understand who you are so you can better help your clients and so that you can show up as you for them day in and day out, right? No masks, just you, and go from there, right? Super important. The R in the Mark method, relationship. It sounds simple, It is, but it's not, right? Because relationships are complex. Like I said before, people are complex. You know, I don't know if you're married, dating, single, have friends, whatever, right? Relationships take work and they deserve to be focused on. If you're selling to someone, it's a lot easier to lean into that relationship, build the relationship, and sell to them again rather than selling to them once, getting paid out, and then going and finding a new person to sell to. Additionally, when you're building these relationships with people, it comes with referrals, right? So your relationships lead or can lead to more relationships. At the same time, relationships are not meant to be taken for granted, right? You got to put in the work. You got to show up. You got to make deposits in that relationship. It's like anybody who's been married for a long time understands this, that if you don't keep working on the relationship fails. Or maybe it doesn't fail, but man, it starts to crumble. I'm not going to go down that path right now, but all relationships take work if you want them to succeed and if you want them to last. Period. End of thought. It's super important and it's always something that can be worked on, right? And then lastly, you got K. K for keep it simple. When you're keeping it simple, you're making what you're doing repeatable. Complex processes kill momentum, period. So if you got a bunch of difficult things that you have to do at work that are part of your routine, you eventually are going to fail. You're going to fail. You're not going to be able to perform at a level where you're going to get ahead because you're always going to be stuck with these difficult things that are in your way of success. It's better to evaluate what your processes are, figure out what's working, what's not working, what's fat, what is fluff, what's garbage, what's not contributing to your bottom line, and cut it out. Or minimize it, or automate it, or do something so that it is not hanging over your head. Simple, repeatable things turn into routines. They turn into habits. Good, easy habits that build success turn into more and more success, right? It's this compounding effect. But you can't compound something if it's difficult to do. So this idea of constant improvement, I had a past life working for Coca-Cola, and it was during a time when they were taking all of the manufacturing and standardizing it, improving it. And so, we had 5S, we had Kaizen events, and essentially what those things are, if you're not familiar with them, they are ways to streamline, standardize, and simplify processes, right? To organize spaces, to lay things out in a workflow that makes sense. And at the end of the day, really all you're doing is you're taking stuff that's a mess and you're learning how to make it make more sense. And so I got to be a part of that transformative period during Coca-Cola's history, back in the early 2010s. But going through that had a major impact on me in understanding that whatever it is you're doing, it doesn't matter if, you're in sales, it doesn't matter if you're in food service, it doesn't matter if you're, in a laboratory, like designing things, the principle and the concept applies. If it's not easy and it's not repeatable, you're gonna suffer, and it's gonna be bad. So as it stands for sales, get rid of the nonsense, focus on small, easy, repeatable things. Boom, you're winning. So that's the Mark method. Not to be too drawn out on this, and obviously we're going to talk about this more as time goes on, but really that method, that mastery, authenticity, focus on relationship, and keeping it simple, that process is really what I have built all my success on. And the nice thing is once you go through that flow, you can then start to pick and choose which one of those letters you want to work on. If you don't know what to do, or you feel like you are stuck with not knowing your next move, guess what? You can pick any one of those letters, focus on it, and you're going to, level up. You're going to make progress that is going to positively affect your work outcome. The Mark method is actually it's being published right now, like right now, shortly available, if not already available. It's probably going to be available by the time this gets posted. So you can pick it up at nathanmark.com in digital format, or it should be very shortly, if not already, available on Amazon. And you can get a copy of the paperback or a hardcover. But really, at the end of the day, I would like you to be curious about this method because it is such a simple method to result in explosive growth, and provide a roadmap for continuous improvement in your work situation, which honestly, like, how many of us, myself included, could use that, at all different stages of our careers. So the Mark method, I can't wait to talk more about it. I can't wait to talk with some business leaders about the Mark method and see how it resonates with them. That's all going to be coming up. Um, just super exciting stuff. And I can't wait for you guys to be there to, see this, watch it play out, and hear it, straight from the horse's mouth, as they say. Um, when it comes to people who probably, successful people, business owners, VPs, C-suite people who have been doing these things, but they've been doing it inherently. It's been this thing that they kind of like naturally have in them, but they didn't, they do it. They don't know why, but they do it. And it's going to be fun to see the connection that they're going to make with the methodology versus how they've conducted themselves in their lives. So I hope that happens. I think it will to some degree. And they're probably going to have a whole bunch of stuff to teach me about, variations of the Mark method or improvements on the Mark method or things that are missing, that are wildly important to them and their success. So all things to come. Looking forward to it and cannot wait to have you guys along on this journey with me. So cheers to you guys. Take care, and I'll catch you later. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Selling Trust podcast with Nathan Mark. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with a colleague or visit nathanmark.com to download your free copy of the Revenue Event Cookbook. Keep building trust and transforming relationships. We'll catch you in the next episode. See ya.